If you've been watching your mailbox every day, refreshing your USCIS case status online, or waking up at night wondering when your green card will finally arrive, I want you to know that you're not alone. Thousands of people are in the same position right now, waiting for that approval notice, waiting for their priority date to become current, or simply waiting for some sign that their case is moving forward. The wait can feel endless, and I understand how frustrating it is when you've done everything right, submitted every form, paid every fee, and still find yourself in limbo. My goal today is to help you understand why February 2026 is actually a month of progress for many of you, especially if you're in the EB3 employment-based category, and to explain the technical details that could make a real difference in your timeline. Before we go any further, I need to be clear about something. I'm providing this information for educational purposes only. Nothing I say here is legal advice tailored to your specific situation. Immigration law is complex, and every case has its own unique circumstances. If you need guidance on your particular application, please consult with a qualified immigration attorney who can review your documents and give you advice based on your individual facts. What I can do here is walk you through the most recent developments in the visa bulletin, explain the filing deadlines that are coming up very soon, and help you understand what these changes mean for people who are waiting for their employment-based or family-based green cards. Let's start with the good news from the February 2026 Visa Bulletin, because there actually is some good news this month. The EB3 category, which covers professionals with bachelor's degrees and skilled workers with at least 2 years of training or experience, has seen significant movement. For most countries, the priority dates in the EB3 category advanced by approximately 1.5 to 3 months. Now, I know that might not sound like a dramatic leap forward, but in the world of immigration backlogs, this kind of movement is genuinely meaningful. It means that thousands more people are now eligible to file their adjustment of status applications, which is the formal name for the I-485 form that allows you to apply for your green card while you're already in the United States. Here's where things get even more interesting. For February 2026, USCIS has officially designated the dates for filing chart as the controlling chart for both family-based and employment-based applications. Some people in the immigration community are calling this a Valentine's gift to applicants, and I think that's a fair way to describe it. Let me explain why this matters so much. There are actually 2 different date charts in every visa bulletin. One is called Final Action Dates, and the other is called Dates for Filing. The Final Action Dates tell you when your green card will actually be approved and issued. The Dates for Filing chart tells you when you're allowed to submit your I-485 application, even if your green card won't be ready for several more months. When USCIS says that the Dates for Filing chart is in effect, they're giving you permission to file your adjustment application earlier, sometimes 3 to 10 months earlier than you would be able to under the Final Action Dates chart. Why does this early filing window matter? Because once your I-485 is accepted and you receive your receipt notice, you become eligible to file for 2 other critical documents. The first is the I-765, which is your application for an employment authorization document, commonly called an EAD or work permit. The second is the I-131, which is your application for advance parole, a travel document that allows you to leave the United States and return without abandoning your green card application. For many people, these 2 documents represent freedom. They mean you can change jobs without worrying about your visa status. They mean you can travel to see family or handle an emergency back home without risking everything you've worked for. So when USCIS opens up the Dates for Filing chart, they're not just moving numbers around on a spreadsheet. They're giving real people real opportunities to move forward with their lives while they wait for the final green card approval. Now, I need to talk about something that's going to affect almost everyone who's planning to file an immigration application in the next few weeks. On March 1, 2026, USCIS is implementing inflation-adjusted fee increases across multiple forms. This is not a small adjustment. If you're planning to use premium processing for any application, the cost of Form I-907 is going up. If you're filing the I-485, I-765, and I-131 together as a package, which most people do, you're going to see a noticeable increase in the total cost. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because if your priority date is close to becoming current under the Dates for Filing chart, and you were planning to file sometime in the next month or two anyway. Filing before March 1st could save you hundreds of dollars. I'm not telling you to rush or to file before you're ready, but I am telling you to be aware of this deadline and to factor it into your planning. If you're working with an attorney, now would be a good time to have a conversation about whether it makes sense to accelerate your filing timeline. Let me also address something that causes a lot of confusion, and that's the medical examination requirement. Every adjustment of status applicant needs to submit Form I-693, which is the Report of Medical Examination and Vaccination Record. Under the current rules as of 2026, a medical exam that was signed on or after November 1st, 2023, remains valid only while your original I-485 application is pending. This is important because it affects people whose cases might be denied for technical reasons or who need to refile for any other reason. If your case is denied and you have to submit a new I-485, you cannot reuse your old medical exam. You'll need to go back to a civil surgeon and get a brand new examination completed. I've seen people get caught off guard by this rule, so I want to make sure you're aware of it. The medical exam is not a one-time document that lasts forever. Its validity is tied to the life of the specific application it supports. I also want to give you realistic expectations about processing times, because I know how tempting it is to imagine that once you file your I-485, your green card will arrive in a matter of weeks. The reality is quite different. As of February 2026, USCIS is reporting processing windows of 8 to 14 months for I-485 applications. That's the time from when they receive your application to when you might receive an approval. For the I-131 advance parole document, the backlog is even longer, with some service centers reporting processing times of up to 16 months. I'm not sharing these numbers to discourage you. I'm sharing them so that you can plan accordingly. If you need to travel urgently, you need to factor in that 16-month window. If you're counting on getting your work permit quickly, understand that even though most EADs are processed faster than the full I-485, you should still prepare for the possibility of several months of waiting. There's something else I want to explain, because it trips people up all the time, and that's the relationship between your priority date and your filing eligibility. Your priority date is essentially your place in line. For family-based cases, it's usually the date that your relative filed the initial petition for you. For employment-based cases, it's typically the date that your labor certification application was filed, or the date your I-140 immigrant petition was filed if you didn't need labor certification. The Visa Bulletin publishes cutoff dates every month for each category and each country. If your priority date is earlier than the published cutoff date, you're allowed to take the next step. But here's the critical detail. You need to compare your priority date to the correct chart. If USCIS has announced that the dates for filing chart is in effect, which they have for February 2026, then you compare your priority date to the dates in that chart to see if you can file your I-485. However, your green card will not actually be approved until your priority date is earlier than the date shown in the final action chart. Some people see that they're current under dates for filing, and they assume their green card will be approved immediately after filing. That's not how it works. You file early under the dates for filing chart, and then you wait for your priority date to become current under the final action chart before USCIS can actually approve your green card. During that waiting period, though, you have the benefit of the work permit and the travel document, which is why filing early is still such a valuable opportunity. I want to take a moment to address something that I know weighs heavily on many of you, and that's the uncertainty around new vetting procedures and administrative delays. There have been reports and concerns about additional security checks, extended background investigations, and policy changes that might be slowing down green card processing for certain applicants. If you feel like your case has been stuck without explanation for longer than the normal processing times would suggest, it's worth considering whether your application might be subject to additional review. Unfortunately, USCIS doesn't always communicate clearly about why a case is delayed or what specific vetting procedures might be affecting it. If you've been waiting significantly longer than the posted processing times, and you haven't received any requests for evidence or any communication from USCIS, you might want to consider filing an inquiry through the USCIS Contact Center or asking your attorney to submit a case inquiry on your behalf. Sometimes just bringing attention to a case that's fallen through the cracks can help move things along. The reality is that the immigration system in 2026 is still dealing with backlogs that built up over several years. The COVID-19 pandemic caused massive disruptions to processing, and even though USCIS has been working to clear those backlogs, the volume of applications is enormous. When you combine that with budget constraints, staffing challenges, and periodic policy changes that require additional training and adjustments, you end up with a system that moves more slowly than any of us would like. But here's what I want you to take away from all of this. The movement in the February visa bulletin, particularly in the EB3 category, is a positive sign. It shows that the system is clearing cases. It shows that priority dates are advancing. It's not advancing as quickly as we might hope, but it is moving forward, and that movement creates opportunities for people who have been waiting. If your priority date is approaching the cutoff dates in the dates for filing chart, now is the time to make sure you have everything ready. Make sure your medical exam is scheduled or completed. Make sure you have all of your supporting documents gathered, including your birth certificates, marriage certificates if applicable, passport photos, and any required affidavits of support. Make sure you understand the fee structure and that you're prepared to pay the filing fees before March 1st, if that makes sense for your situation. And most importantly, make sure you're working with someone who can review your application carefully before it's submitted, because a rejected application doesn't just cost you the filing fee, it costs you time, and time is the most valuable thing you have when you're trying to get your green card. I know this is a lot of technical information, and I know it can feel overwhelming when you're in the middle of this process, but I want to encourage you to stay informed, stay patient, and stay hopeful. The immigration system is not designed to be easy to navigate, but with the right information and the right preparation, you can move through it successfully. The fact that you're watching this video tells me that you're taking your application seriously, that you're trying to understand the rules, and that you're doing everything you can to make sure your case moves forward. That's exactly the right approach. If you found this information helpful, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Feel free to share your priority date, your category, and where you are in the process. Sometimes just knowing that other people are going through the same thing can make the wait a little bit easier. And if you have specific questions about the visa bulletin, about the fee increases, or about any of the topics I covered today, leave those in the comments as well. I try to read through them and provide guidance where I can. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the very best of luck with your green card application. H-1B and H-4 vetting update. 5 critical questions consular officers are now asking about your social media. Phi piao tho rotao.